That's right, and that's why I'm so glad, so honoured to have Dr. Marlene Kanga as our guest today, who is, wait for this, President-elect of the World Federation of Engineering Organisations. She's numero uno.
You've gone straight to the top, Dr. Karl,
right.
I love it.
And also has degrees in chemical engineering at various levels, and to put it all together in a balanced way, a PhD in business administration, which is why they chose her to be numero uno engineer for the entire planet. And she's got stuff to say about, well, you tell us. Over to you.
Well, that's no small task. Do tell us, how does one get to achieve what you have?
Yes, it's very exciting to be here, so thank you for having me. I have represented Australia at the World Federation of Engineering Organisations for a number of years. There are very few women there, and it's like a UN of engineering. I suppose I stood out. And I don't sit by quietly, so I got very well known. And I thought I could do the job, so I ran for it. And I'm thrilled that I had the whole of Asia support me, every Asian country, the whole of Africa, and most of Europe. So I had 2/3 of the vote from 90 nations, representing some 20 million engineers around the world. So it's a huge opportunity to make a difference in the world, to make the world a better place,
Wow.
and really to show Australia as a leader in the world of engineering.
Because perhaps we do have a little bit of catching up to do with the rest of the world, particularly when we're speaking in terms of our representation for women.
Yes, we have had engineering as a profession in Australia for about 100 years. In fact, Engineers Australia will be celebrating its centenary in 2019. But we still have a very low representation of women. So we still have less than 20% on average across the nation of girls studying engineering at universities. There are some faculties and some universities where the proportion is higher, but this is on average.
That's at university, but what about out in the field?
So well, it drops down to 7, but this 7% on average, but there are more young engineers under age 30. There's a huge drop-off when women start a family in those crucial age range of 30 to 40 years, and it continues to fall. Now, I'm a chemical engineer, and I know of only one other chemical engineer in my age group who has raised a family, just one in the whole country.
Wow.
Wow. So tell us
that,
a little bit
that
about
gives you an
your
idea
career.
of the losses.
How did you manage to defy the odds, which are quite astounding?
Well, I quite simply love engineering. I'm a nerd, and I love the fact that I'm a nerd. And I loved mathematics and chemistry. I'm a very practical person, and to me, being an engineer was the most obvious thing to do. No one said to me, girls don't do engineering, so off I went and I did it. And I know I love it, and I know I'm good at it, and that just kept me going. That's why I've stayed on.
It's obviously working for you.
Now, what about other countries in the world? How do they see engineers, say the developed countries versus the poorer or developing countries?
Yes, so in the developed world, we have very low proportions of women as engineers. So it's generally less than 20% in Europe, the United States, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. All these countries are struggling with the issue of diversity and trying to increase the number of women in engineering. But it's a very different picture in the newly emerging developed nations. For example, in Malaysia, we had very few women as engineers, say around 2000. In fact, there were only 20 women registered in the board of professional engineers. Today, there's almost 20,000.
Wow. 20 to 20,000 in 16 years.
Extraordinary.
Yes, and that was the result of a formal national strategy for STEM to increase the number of young people taking up science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it was a national process where they looked at the infrastructure, they looked at the teaching resources, and they promoted science and engineering as a career of choice. Now, in Asia, quite naturally, these areas are very highly regarded and respected. So young people in droves, boys and girls, took up these subjects. They didn't particularly promote it for women, but it just happened. And they have 50% in the universities studying engineering, 50% girls, and 30% of registered engineers in Malaysia are women. And this proportion is going to keep increasing as more and more young women graduate. And countries like Malaysia see this as being critical to them achieving development. And it's not the only country. You have countries like Kuwait, for example, started teaching engineering only in 1980 in the University of Kuwait. Today, more than 60% of their students are women. And in fact, they don't say 60, they still say 50 in case engineering is seen as female dominated. And again, once again, these women are graduating and doing great jobs. And they're juggling the issues that we have juggled over the years, like work-life balance, family, children, all those other roles that women have and juggle with. They're juggling with that too, but they're juggling with it more successfully and hanging in there, and they love engineering.
And once you get that critical mass, I suppose it makes it much easier because you've had people go before you, haven't you?
Yes, you have people, you have role models, you have that cohort which, where you can deal with issues. Companies are then more aware, of problems that might emerge. I think 25 to 30% is the critical point beyond which it becomes a norm, a new normal. And then the best thing is that you don't have to talk about it or think about it anymore. It just happens. You have an inclusive workplace that lets everybody make the contribution according to their capacity.
Very exciting opportunities, Dr. Marlene Kanga and Dr. Karl. Wonderful to speak to you both this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.